Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to show you how to crochet this women's cardigan. So this cardigan can be made in a variety of sizes, and for all of the information on how to make the different sizes, please see the description box below. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos. So to start your cardigan, you want to make a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, you want to take your yarn and you want to take your finger and you want to wrap the yarn around your finger once and then twice. Then take the first loop and pull it over the second loop, and then take the second loop and pull it all the way over your finger. You then want to take your crochet hook, go in through this space and pull tight, and there you have a slip knot. Once you have your slip knot, you now want to make your foundation chain, and for our foundation chain we are going to chain 80. So you want to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 80. So I have finished working my foundation chain and I have gone back and checked that I have 80 chains, and we're now moving on to round 1. So to begin round 1, you want to chain 2. So chain 1 and 2 on top of your foundation chain. And now for this round, we're going to do a simple round of double crochet. So we're going to work 1 double crochet into every single chain of our foundation chain. So we're going to start off by working our first double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So here's the first chain from the hook, the second chain and the 3rd chain. So here's the 4th chain, and into this chain we're going to work our first double crochet. So to do a double crochet, you want to yarn over and insert your hook into the chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the final 2 loops on your hook. So there we have 1 double crochet, and we're going to do that into every single chain along. So yarn over and go into the next chain, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the final 2 loops on your hook. So there we have another double crochet, and you want to do this into every single chain along for round 1. So I have just finished working that all the way along for row or round 1, and at the end of this round you should have 80 double crochets, and that includes the chains at the beginning. So we skipped 3 chains at the beginning of the round when we worked into the 4th chain from the hook, and those 3 chains that we skipped count as our first double crochet. So you should have 80 double crochets including the chains. So we are now moving on to round 2. So to begin round 2, you want to chain 2 and turn. So chain 2 and turn, and this chain 2 counts as our first double crochet. So for round 2, we're going to do 1 double crochet into 1 stitch, but 2 double crochets both into the next stitch. Then 1 double crochet into the next stitch and 2 double crochets both into the next stitch, all the way along. So we've chained 2, and this counts as our first double crochet for this stitch here. So we're going to begin working into this stitch, and into this stitch we're going to do 2 double crochets. So you want to yarn over and go into the stitch and work 1 double crochet, and then yarn over and go back into the same stitch and work a second double crochet. So we have 1 double crochet, then 2 double crochets. So into the next stitch we're going to work 1 double crochet, but into the next one we're going to do 2 double crochets both into this stitch. And you want to do that all the way along for round 2. So we are alternating between 1 double crochet and 2 double crochets. So I have almost finished working that all the way along for round 2, but I just wanted to show you it's really important that you work into the turning chains at the end of the rounds. So here are our chains, and you want to go into the top of these chains, so into the 3rd chain, and these can be a little bit tricky to get into, but go into the top of the chain and work 2 double crochets. You should finish off by working 2 double crochets into the top of the chains at the end. And we're now ready to move on to round 3. So we are now on to round 3, and round 3 is the exact same as round 2. We're going to do the exact same thing. So you want to start off with a chain 2 and turn to begin round 3. And then we're going to do 1 double crochet into 1 stitch, 2 double crochets into the next, 1 into the next, 2 into the next, 1 into the next, 2 into the next, all the way along for round 3. So our chain 2 counts as our first double crochet for this stitch here. So we're going to begin working into this stitch. So you want to yarn over and go into this stitch and work 2 double crochets both into this stitch. And then into the next stitch we're going to do 1 double crochet, and then into the next we're going to do 2, and you want to do this all the way along for round 3. This is just the same as round 2. So I have just finished working that all the way along for round 3, and at the end of this round you should have 180 stitches along. At the beginning of round 1, so at the end of round 1 you should have 80, then at the end of round 2 you should have 120, and then at the end of round 3 you should have 180. So 80, 120, 180. And at this point it's really important that you make sure that you go back and check that you do have 180 stitches across. And if you don't have 180 stitches, then now is the time to change it. So you can either take away a stitch or 2 or add in a stitch or 2 along this 3rd row. But it's important that after row 3 or round 3, you have 180 double crochets across. So we are now moving on to round 4. So we are now on to round 4. So you can see I have just finished round 3. And for the next 3 rounds, so rounds 4, 5 and 6, we're going to do the exact same thing. So we are going to simply work 1 double crochet into every single stitch along for 3 rounds. So once you have done those 3 rounds, this is what your work will look like. And at the moment your work may be a bit ripply, so it may be all ripply and have lots of kinks in it, but these 3 rounds and the rounds following these rounds even out those ripples, so it's nothing to worry about. So you want to do 3 rounds of 1 double crochet into each stitch, and once you do that, this is what you will have. Your work will be this. So I'm starting round 4. So to start each of these 3 rounds, you want to chain 2 and turn, and this counts as our first double crochet for this stitch here. So now into this stitch, we're going to yarn over and go into the stitch and work 1 double crochet, and then do 1 double crochet into every single stitch along. And when you get to the end of this round, we're going to chain 2 and turn and work double crochets all the way across for round 5. And then when we get to the end of round 5, you want to chain 2 and turn and work double crochets all the way across for round 6. So we are doing 3 rounds of 1 double crochet into each stitch. So I'm just coming to the end of those 3 rounds, so I'm just finishing up round 6, and I have 1 more double crochet to work. So I have a final double crochet to work into the turning chain. But whilst working this final double crochet, I am going to change colours. So in round 7, we are going to be starting the star stitch stripe. So we're going to have a stripe of star stitch which goes across the top, and that is going to be worked over round 7 and round 8. So I want to work those 2 rounds in a different colour, and if you don't want to work them in a different colour, then you can just work a final double crochet as normal. But if you do want to change colours, then you can do that whilst working the last stitch. So what you want to do is you want to yarn over and go into the top of the last stitch, pull up a loop and yarn over and pull through 2 loops, so just as you would with a normal double crochet, but you do not want to complete your double crochet using this colour. So usually we would yarn over and pull through these 2 loops using this colour, but instead you want to drop the colour that you're using and take your new yarn. So I'm taking a white, and you want to take your new yarn, place this over the end of your crochet hook, and then pull this through, and this will finish off your double crochet and also change colours at the same time. So So now you can fasten off, so cut the yarn that you were using and make sure that you leave a tail to weave in later, and we're ready to move on to round 7. So to begin round 7 and your star stitch stripe, you want to chain 3 and turn. So chain 3 and turn to start. And before we start this round, I want to quickly mention that you must work this round loosely. So not too loose, but not too tight. If you work this round too tight, your ends will end up coming in and you will have uneven edges. So make sure that you work this round 7, nice and loose. So we have chained 3 and turned, and we are now going to make our first star. So to do your first star, you want to take your chain 3 and you want to go into the second chain. So here's the first chain and then the second chain. So insert your hook into the second chain and pull up a loop. And you then want to go down into the very first chain and insert your hook into this chain and pull up a loop. And remember, do not work too tight. And now we're going to go down into this first stitch here, or the last stitch from last row, and insert your hook into this stitch and pull up a loop. Then insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop. So you should now have 6 loops on your hook, and you want to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. So pull through all the loops on your hook and then chain 1 to complete the star. So there we have our first star completed, and we can move on to the second star. So now for the rest of the stars along this row or this round, they are all going to be completed in the same way that we complete the second one. So this first one that we did was a little bit different as we had our turning chain, but the second one and all of the rest of them are going to be the same. So to do the next star, so this is the second star, you want to insert your hook into the eye of the previous star. So you see this little hole here where we chained, you want to insert your hook into this eye and pull up a loop. And you now want to insert your hook right before the last stitch that we worked. So if you have a look at our previous star, we have this last stitch that we pulled up a loop in. So this is the last spoke of the star, the last line, and you want to insert your hook in right before this spoke and pull up a loop. And you now want to insert your hook into the stitch, the last stitch that was pulled up in the previous star. So we've gone into the eye of the star right before the last spoke, and now we're going to go into the last stitch that was pulled up here. So insert your hook into the stitch and pull up a loop, and remember, do not work too tight. Then insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop. And you should now have 6 loops on your hook, and you want to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on your hook. And you now want to chain 1 to complete the star. So there we have our second star completed, and that is how we are going to complete all of the stars throughout this round. So now we're going to work the next stitch in the same way as we worked this one. So the next star, so insert your hook into the eye of the previous star and pull up a loop. Then insert your hook right before the last spoke. So here's the last spoke, and go in right before and pull up a loop like that. Then go into the last stitch that was pulled up in the previous star and pull up a loop. Then insert your hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and into the next stitch and pull up a loop. And now yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on your hook and chain 1. So there we have our second star, and we're going to do that all the way along. So insert your hook into the eye of the previous star and pull up a loop, then in right before the last spoke and pull up a loop, then into the last space pulled up in the previous star and pull up a loop, and then into each of the next 2 stitches. and then yarn over and pull through all 6 loops and chain. So I have just finished working that all the way along for round 7, and I have worked into the very last stitch, the turning chain, and we're now moving on to round 8, and we're going to use the same colour for round 8. So to begin round 8, you want to chain 2 and turn, and this chain 2 counts as our first half double crochet. So round 8 is very simple. We're simply going to do 2 half double crochets into the eye of every star from the previous round. So these little holes here of the stars, these are the eye of the star, and into each eye we're going to do 2 half double crochets. So we have chain 2, and this counts as our first half double crochet for this eye here. So into this eye we are now going to work a second half double crochet. So to do a half double crochet, you want to yarn over and insert your hook into the stitch into the eye of the star, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So there we have 2 half double crochets, and we're going to move along to this next hole here, which is the eye of the next star, and yarn over and go into the eye and work 1 half double crochet, and now yarn over and go back into the same eye and work a second half double crochet. So just do that all the way along. We're going to move along to the next eye and work 1 half double crochet, and then a second one. Then into the next eye here we're going to work 2 more. So just 2 half double crochets into every single eye, and you want to make sure that you are not working this round too tight either. You need to make sure that you are working this round quite loose, just like round 7, the previous round. So I'm just coming to the end of round 8, and you can see I have one last star to work into. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 1 half double crochet into this last star. So into the last star, just work 1 half double crochet. And then you see these chains here. We have 2 chains, which we did at the very beginning. And into these chains, we're going to work our final half double crochet. So rather than doing 2 into the star, we're going to do 1 here and 1 into the chains. But whilst working this last half double crochet, we are also going to change colours. So I'm going to change back to the blue, and you don't have to of course, but I'm going to, and I'm going to do that whilst working my last half double crochet. So what you want to do is you want to yarn over and go into the top of the chains here. So you see the chains on the side, go into the very top and pull up a loop. But I'm not going to complete my half double crochet with this colour. I'm going to drop the white colour that I'm using, and pick up my blue, place this over the end of my crochet hook and pull this through. And you now want to fasten off, so cut the yarn that you were using and leave a tail to weave into your cardigan later. And we're ready to move on to round 9 using our new colour, or our old colour. So we are now moving on to round 9, and round 9 is just a simple round of double crochets. So you want to do 1 double crochet into every single stitch. So to start this round, we're going to chain 2, and this counts as our first double crochet. So chain 2 and turn, and you can see we have our star stitch here. And like I said, you just want to do 1 double crochet into each stitch. So the chain 2 is the double crochet for this stitch here. So yarn over and go into the next stitch and work 1 double crochet, not half double crochet, double crochet, and then do 1 double crochet into the next stitch and the next one, and just do this all the way along. And at the end of this round you should have 180 stitches across. So I have finished working that all the way along for round 9. So I did 1 double crochet into each stitch, and I actually went ahead and repeated that row again. So for row 10 or round 10, just do another round of plain double crochet. At this point in round 11, we're going to be adding the shape into our cardigan. So we're going to take our big loop, which we have here, and we're going to be adding in the front, the back and the armholes. But if you are doing a larger size, so if you're doing a large or an extra large or an extra extra large or something like that, then you may want to do an additional row of plain double crochet before you start round 11. So you may want to add a third round of just one double crochet into each stitch to make your work a little bit bigger. And also, if you are not too keen on the rippling effect that we have up here, this really doesn't bother me at all, but if you want to get rid of that a little bit more, then you can do another round of plain double crochet, and that will fade away more as we go on and our cardigan gets heavier. So we are now moving on to round 11, but if you want, you could add another row or even another 2 rows of plain double crochet before you start this round. So now, like I said, in round 11, we're going to be adding in the front, the back and the armholes. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to work along for the front of our cardigan, or for one half of the front. We're then going to skip a certain number of stitches. So we're going to skip a certain number of stitches for the first armhole, work all the way along for the back. Then we're going to skip another set of stitches for the next armhole, and then work all the way along for the front, or the other half of the front. And that is how we are going to create the shape in round 11. Before you start this round, it's really important that you go and make sure you have 180 stitches. You should have 180 double crochets worked in your last round, and it's important that you make sure you have the correct number before starting this round. And if you don't have that number, then you can either add in a few stitches or work a couple of sets of 2 double crochets together until you get the 180. So make sure that you have 180 stitches before starting round 11. So to begin round 11, you want to chain 2 and turn, and this counts as our first double crochet. So what we're going to do now is we're now going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 24 stitches, and with the chain 2, that will count as 25 double crochets for the first half of the front of our cardigan. So we've chained 2, so this is the double crochet for this stitch here. So now yarn over and go into the next stitch and work 1 double crochet, and do this 24 times, or 25 if you include the chain 2. So like that, so there I have my 25 double crochets including the chain. And now we are moving on to the first armhole, and for this armhole you simply want to skip 40 stitches. So count 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way up to 40. So here is my 40th stitch from the one I finished working in. So what I'm going to do now is work a double crochet into the next stitch along. So this would be my 41st stitch. So you want to take your yarn and then yarn over and go into the stitch and sort of pull your work together so that it's nice and tight. You have a nice tight double crochet and work that double crochet. And I always go back and check that I have skipped the right number of stitches. So you want to skip. So there 40. We have the front and our first armhole completed. So now we're moving on to the back. And our back is going to be 50 stitches long. So we're going to work 50 double crochets for the back of our cardigan. So we have already worked 1, so you just want to do 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then into each of the next 50 stitches. So 50 stitches in total for the back, so 50 double crochets. So like that, so 50 double crochets across. And now we're going to move on to our next armhole, which we're going to work in the exact same way as the last one. You simply want to skip 40 stitches. So count up to 40. Like that, so 40 stitches, and then work a double crochet into the next one along. So this would be the 41st stitch along. And now you want to work 1 double crochet into each of the next stitches all the way to the end. So work 1 double crochet into every other stitch, and this should be 25 in total for the other half of the front of your cardigan. So all the way to the end, and remember to work into the turning chain at the end. So there I have finished round 11, and I have turned my work the right way around, and you can see we have our front, then we have the armhole all the way along the back, the other armhole and the front. So we have a really nice shape. So we're now moving on to round 12, and to begin round 12 you want to chain 2 and turn, and this counts as our first double crochet. So for round 12 we're simply going to do 1 double crochet into every single stitch along, so just 1 double crochet into each stitch. And when you get to the armholes, it's really important that you work straight across. Do not go up into the armhole. So in round 12, you just want to go straight over. And this round should be 100 stitches long. We cut out 40 for each sleeve, so we should have 100 stitches in each round. So we have our chain 2, which counts as our first double crochet for this stitch here. So we're going to work 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then the next one, and just do this all the way along, all the way until the end, 100 stitches for round 12. Okay, so like that, so I've gone all the way around for round 12, and this is what I have. You can see we are now starting to build the body of our cardigan. So now for the rest of the length of our cardigan, you simply want to repeat that round again and again and again. So you want to repeat round 12 for as many rounds as you like until your cardigan is long enough. So I'm probably going to do, I don't know, up until about here, but I'll just keep trying my cardigan on until it is long enough. So you want to just chain 2 and turn and work 1 double crochet into each stitch along, then chain 2 and turn, work all the way back, chain 2 and turn and work all the way back. And in each round you should have 100 double crochets. So you just want to keep repeating round 12 until your cardigan is long enough. So I have finished working the body of my cardigan, and now we are going to make a single crochet border around the edge. So for our border, what we're going to do is we're going to work single crochets evenly up the side of the rows. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around the neckline, then single crochets evenly down the other side, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch around the bottom. So we're doing single crochets all the way around, but on our cardigan we have 4 corners. We have a corner up here, here, and then down the bottom we have one here and one here. And in each of these corners, so in the very corner space, you want to do 3 single crochets all into that corner. So 3 single crochets here, here, here and here, and that will give you a nice sharp corner. So what we have here is we have our work where we have finished working, and if you're on the other side then work the bottom first and then come up. But I'm on this side, so I'm going to work up first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this corner space and work 3 single crochets. So go into the corner and work 1, then work 2, and then work a third one. And to do a single crochet, you want to insert your hook into the space, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So there I have 3 single crochets, and this will give us a neat corner. So now I'm just going to work single crochets evenly up the side of my cardigan. So just go into the first row and work a single crochet, then into the side of the next row. So just work single crochets all the way up the side. So I have worked single crochets all the way up, and you can see we get a really nice straight edge. And I'm coming to the very end of this row or this side, and what I'm actually going to do is before I make my corner stitch, I'm going to make a button loop. So I've worked 1 single crochet, and for a button loop all you want to do is just make some chains, and these chains need to be long enough to wrap around your button. So I'm going to chain around about 6 or 7 like that, and here is my button, and I can see that this will be long enough to wrap around my button. And then you just want to go into the next stitch and work your single crochet or your next single crochet. So it's single crochet, chains, single crochet for the button loop. So like, and then here I have my corner stitch or my corner space. So into this space I'm going to work 3 single crochets, and that will give me a nice neat corner. So I'm going to work 1, 2, then 3, and then I am onto my neckline. So just go into the next stitch and work 1 single crochet and do this all the way around. 1 single crochet into each stitch around for the neckline, 3 single crochets into this corner, 1 single crochet down, 3 single crochets into this corner and 1 single crochet around the bottom. So I finished working my border all the way round, and then I finished off by doing a slip stitch into the very first single crochet that we worked. I then weaved all of my ends into the inside of my cardigan and added a button at the top, and I have finished. So thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet videos.